Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to continue the evolution of Bitcoin's power regression trend line drawn over its price. Okay, so here we are again, log scale of the all-time Bitcoin price curve from our friend Laszlo, trading 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas, the first barter deal in May 22nd, 2010, Bitcoin Pizza Day, to the final and last suspension of withdrawals from Mt. Gox in Japan, 650,000 Bitcoins lost, stolen, frozen. Many have since been recovered. The Bitfinex hack, 120,000 Bitcoins in August 2016, and then the FTX debacle. Apparently, they didn't really have any Bitcoin. We'll see in the future, but definitely they had a lot of synthetic, fake Bitcoin balances that people supposedly had and then didn't have after they filed for bankruptcy on November 11th and 12th, 2022. So just have those sort of big negative events for Bitcoin so we can see how the price has reacted over time and where it is today. Reminder, if you have not checked out yesterday's video on the Bitcoin price power regression with percentiles, definitely do check that out. It will help you understand this video a little bit more. And the prior videos, we've run linear, logarithmic, exponential power regression curves over the gold price, the silver price, the Bitcoin price, just to provide an intro of how we're going to try to review things on this channel. It's not the only way, but these basic trend lines really help to get a feel for what's happening in the markets. So what I want to do today is continue with the power trend that we drew yesterday over Bitcoin, but I want to also compare it with prior trends that Bitcoin's price had stamped and then drawn through prior year ends. So again, let's just get right into it. Here's the current trend. Again, this is log scale, so we're looking at, a couple pennies per Bitcoin here in 2010, where the data is expanded at the lower part of the y-axis with log scale, and then it's compressed up here. So it allows us to see the whole picture over 13 plus years of Bitcoin pricing data. Here we're at February 1st. I'm not sure my tooltip will pick it up at this zoom. Let's even zoom it in. February 1st, 2023, yesterday, as of recording, $23,136 stamped for Bitcoins. Closing price, Greenwich time. And we see that the price has been above the current trend line, below the current trend line where it currently is, so on and so forth. We can also run a prediction, which is one of the beautiful things about a trend line. Again, regressions, trend lines, they don't always have to do with the markets, don't always have to do with the price. When I say prediction, I am absolutely not saying this is what the price of Bitcoin will be. This is a statistical, mathematical term. This is simply if you extend out the current coefficients, the slope from the y-intercept of this trend line, you can get a prediction of where Bitcoin's price should be based on current trends. And this is the all-time trend. This is every single day's worth of data from Bitcoin Pizza Day to February 1st, 2022. And a reminder, it's going to be the same. It will actually shifted just a little bit from yesterday. December 31st, 2030, what's the Bitcoin all-time trend predicting? $674,690 Bitcoin, December 31st, 2030. That's a 95% R squared until this point, okay? All of this pricing data is a 95% R squared, means there's 95% less variability versus if you compared the price with the mean. It means it's a very strong relationship between price and time. An amazingly well-behaved power regression. The Bitcoin price here on a power curve is better than this 95% R squared is pretty wild. It's better than exponential trends, linear, logarithmic. It's better than any gold trend, silver trend. Remember, we reviewed in an earlier video our friend Trololo Low from Bitcoin Talk. He, I think, was one of the first people to inspire a lot of people to run these types of trend lines. He was doing this in 2014, 2015. He was running a logarithmic trend line. Had a much better fit at the time, a logarithmic trend line. for Bitcoin's pricing data, but now a power regression. The coefficients and formula will be in the show notes, as always, of what I've found, if you want to build it yourself. The power regression is by far and away the best fitting trend for Bitcoin, and interestingly, continues to be so. But what I want to do now is compare some prior trends and see how that looks compared to the current price and the current trend. So let's imagine, let's zoom in here just to somewhere around the end of 2010. Let's go a little bit closer even. Let's go here. This is basically Bitcoin's pricing data through 2010. Okay, and this is the current trend. All-time trend is the black line where it sits. Of course, this trend didn't exist in 2010. I'll show you what existed in 2010 in a second, but this is the green is the current, the green, excuse me, is the Bitcoin price data during this time in 2010. And before Bitcoin peaks today, even really after Bitcoin peaks today at this point, is very, very scarce. You notice this jump here, this obviously very, very steep jump in early July 11th, 2010. Can we point to a reason there? We actually can. This was the release of the Slashdot article. It was a very famous article in Nerd Techie magazine. Slashdot exposed a lot of coders, a lot of people to Bitcoin right here. Very interesting. Even though, you know, we were basically at 1 penny Bitcoin, and we went basically 10x from that article. We went to 10 cents in a couple days, 8 cents. And then we plateaued a little bit more, and then we continued on. So let's draw a trend line, a power regression trend line, same type of a curve, just on this data, just on 2010 data. What do we get? We get this. Get this red dotted line. You can see it looks much better than the all-time trend, which follows all of the data. This 2010 trend clearly hugs it much better, starts out the y-intercept very close, the y-intercept as of Bitcoin peak today, very close to the initial price that Laszlo paid, which was sub-penny Bitcoin. And, you know, it follows it very well. So it's a very good trend line. And you see here 87% R squared. You see it in the tooltip as well, 87% R squared. That means at the time, and only through December 31st, 2010, the R squared, that is the goodness of fit, was 87%. Pretty good. Pretty good R squared for Bitcoin at the time. It's possible that the logarithmic trend line gave a better R squared at the time. That was what our friend Trololo was using, as I mentioned. Nonetheless, this is the power curve. This is the curve that works best today. And this was the trend line that Bitcoin would stamp in 2010, only looking at 2010, very rare, illiquid, not great pricing data, admittedly. This is the power trend in 2010, the red line. Now, let's zoom out and let's see versus the current trend line, the black line, the all-time line, which we should be familiar with from this and prior videos. Let's see how that compares with the 2010 trend line if we just extended it out. We use the statistical prediction model to just remember time is our independent variable, so time just continues on, marches on, and price is what we want to find, the dependent variable. So let's reset the zoom and let's see where the red trend line takes us all the way till today and beyond. Big numbers, big numbers. I have this trolling tomato here just to show that it's a fun number. We can see, let's even zoom in till a little bit of 2011. Here was the first actually Mt. Gox hack. We went to over $30 in June 2011. Then we fell back consistently for the next year. But we see that this trend line, Bitcoin did intersect with it, and it was pretty good all the way until August 2011. And then if we zoom out, it never hit it again. It never hit it again. It's a fun one. Let's see how fun it is now by predicting out the values until 2030, which we've been doing, December 31st, 2030. So here we go. The current trend is the black line. The 2010 year-end trend is the red line. You'll see here that we're already at $10 billion with a B $10 billion with a B Bitcoin price prediction from the 2010 trend by June 2026. Whereas the current trend, the 95% R squared current all-time trend, is $172,000 per Bitcoin only. We have $10 billion with a B predicted by June 2026 for the 2010 trend line. Let's keep going all the way to 2030, December 31st. Let's keep going. And there we go. $128 billion per Bitcoin. That is the price predicted from the 2010 Bitcoin price action, 2010 Bitcoin regression trend line. Now, 2 points here. First of all, when I say prediction, when I use the word prediction, again, this can be done in any statistical data set, with medicine, with in academia for scientific studies. Prediction does not mean I know what the price of Bitcoin is going to be tomorrow or in 5 years or in 10 years. I do not know that. This is just a statistical modeling. It's mathematical speak here when I say prediction. I'm not at all saying this is absolutely what the price is going to be. I'm just using what the regression is designed for. It's to predict roughly a goodness of fit and a result that's possible in the future based on the prior trend. So that's the first point. And second point is just use the eye test here to see how it really looks. Obviously, we've fallen off of this trend line. Unfortunately, the tomato, awesome, hilarious, funny Bitcoin trend line, trolling trend line here, hasn't even intersected the Bitcoin price since August 2011. And since then, this has really just been a dream. The 2011 trend line is very similar. It's not as extreme. So obviously, as time goes on, the price dampens a little bit, the price action. Those 2010 days after the Slashdot article, massive interest quickly. Very new technology, new protocol, new understanding of digital decentralized cash. Of course, it was a very fast clip, a very fast rate of growth. We've just fallen off from that trend line. Maybe we'll get back on it in the future, never say never. But based on the 95% R squared of the black trend line, which includes all of the data. Remember, the red line is only 2010 data. Seems quite doubtful that we'll get back on this nice trend line of $128 billion Bitcoin by 2030. Nonetheless, fun to look at. Now let's look at the, let's go a couple years out here. I could show you every year, but I'm not going to do that this video. Let's look at the 2013 trend line. 2013 trend line. Just drew it. Let's get a little bit of 2014. Let's take off the 2010. So here's the 2013 trend line. And remember, Bitcoin experienced its second major boom, if you want to, really third, but as far as the years go, this was probably the first big one. Of course, again, this was a major boom in 2010 after the Slashdot article, major boom, but it never really fell back from there. But this boom, it fell back after the MT Gox hacking. And then we had two booms actually in 2013. This one where it went to $200, then fell back to like 60. And then we went to $1,200 at the end of 2013. So catching the 2013 trend line, and let's just make it exact. Let's catch just 2013 data. Okay. This trend line with an 88% R squared, this power regression, is only looking at 2013 and before pricing data. Only looking at pricing data from Bitcoin Pizza Day up to December 31st, 2013. 88% R squared. And this looks you can already see this is much closer than our tomato trend line from 2010. This is much closer. So that's interesting. We're converging on the current trend line already from 2013. Interesting point. So let's just look at, we were well above trend here in December 2013. Bitcoin price was $1,134. The all-time trend, which goes till today, the black line, was $98 at that point. So we're well over that. But even the more appropriate for the time period, December 31st, 2013 trend was only roughly double, $171 per Bitcoin. So we're well over that. So we're well above trend. This was our Bitcoin is volatile sorts of activity. We're well above trend, which, by the way, continues to this day, but we're well above trend in 2013. And you can obviously see that. But the trend line itself that Bitcoin stamped and drew up through year-end 2013, very, very close to the all-time power trend of 95% R squared of today. So let's do the same thing. Let's see where the 2013 trend would take us to even today. Let's look at today. Zoom in a little bit. So today's trend line, let's go to February 1st here. Again, today's price, yesterday's price, $23,100 per Bitcoin. The trend, the current trend today, $48,500. $48,500. That's a 95% very good goodness of fit R squared trend line that Bitcoin has stamped through all of its 13 plus years of pricing history, 14 years of system history. Pretty good. The 2013 trend line's pretty, you can see now, even though it looks close on a log scale, it's quite a bit more optimistic. Not as optimistic as our 2010 tomato trend line, but $245,000 per Bitcoin predicted. Again, I use that word loosely, predicted by year-end 2013. We obviously didn't hit that. And we haven't hit that. We didn't come close to hitting it here. Although we did hit the black line. Remember, we did intersect very cleanly in the COVID years, the meme stock years, the Robinhood trading years, whatever. COVID, 2020, 2021, people trading. We did hit that. In the current trend, we sliced right through that. But the 2013 trend, we did not hit it. And let's zoom out again. The only time we hit it again, the 2013 trend, was in 2017. The 2017 boom, $20,000 Bitcoin. We see that we went over it. The trend line was about $10,000 at this point. Let's even take off the current trend. The trend line from 2013 was about $11,000, $10,000, and we went to $20,000 Bitcoin. We were roughly double for a couple days, the trend line. Okay. So that was the last time that Bitcoin was above the 2013 trend line. Let's reset the zoom again. It didn't rise above the 2013 trend line ever again. And let's just, for fun, let's see what that predicts out all the way out to 2030. $5 million Bitcoin, $5.3 million Bitcoin, December 31st, 2030. Much more reasonable, actually, compared to, let's just throw on the tomato trend line, the 2010 great year trend line, $128 billion versus $5 million. Seems like quite a jump. 2013 trend looks much more realistic. Even though we haven't hit that since 2017, this trend line is certainly much more realistic than the tomato trend. So let's take them both off. Back to just Bitcoin's price here. Now let's look 3 years later. Let's look at the 2016 trend. Now this is an interesting one for a couple reasons. All right, I'm roughly looking through all of the 2016 pricing data, a little bit of 2017. I'm going to draw a trend line now, the same power regression, same formula, only looking from Bitcoin Pizza Day, May 22nd, 2010, all the way through December 31st, 2016. Let's go ahead and draw that trend line right now. And here you see this is an R squared of 90%. Or more accurately, this was an R squared of 90%, because R squared is meaningless after December 31st, 2016, with these historical evolutionary type trend lines, right? I'm not looking at the data to predict out the trend line beyond 2016 anymore. I'm not factoring in pricing data anymore. Okay, let's zoom it out. Let's see where immediately you can see this looks much better than certainly the 2010 trend line, looks much better than the 2013 trend line. Bitcoin's price is intersecting it more. Let's go zoom in from this angle. So 2017, we were above it, of course. A little bit of support-like action from the puke, the 2018 puke, the real capitulation that happened after the ICO bust. People got sick of crypto, Bitcoin, so on and so forth, and back up in 2019. Then the COVID dump, and then back up 2020, 2021 above the trend line. So this trend line, certainly better than the 2013 trend line, certainly better than the 2010 trend line, as far as, how does Bitcoin's price action move around it? And how did this trend line, based on only up to year-end 2016 pricing data, how did it predict? How did it predict? And it's much better, much better. Now, of course, we're below it, just like the current trend line. Let's reset the zoom. Let's go all the way out. And let's predict all the way out to 2030, December 31st. See what it tells us. $599,957 per Bitcoin. $599,957 per Bitcoin. Now, if you've been paying attention, if you've been watching prior videos, this might seem like an interesting number to you. Why? Because it's pretty similar to the current trend. It's pretty similar to the current trend. I'm going to draw that in now. Look at that. The 2016 trend and the current trend, which takes all the data, almost identical. Almost identical. Let's zoom in to recent years just to look at them. We see that the current trend is above the 2016 trend. But here's the interesting thing. Based on every year, trend lines in 2011, 2012, 2013, just looking at all the evolution of the progression of power trend lines each year, seeing how they look, seeing how they predict out. 2016's trend line, I can tell you, even though I'm not showing you every single year here, is the lowest. This is the lowest. Okay, so let's reset the zoom again. Roughly through here is the 2016 trend line. We caught the entire crypto winter here after the MT Gox final blow up in 2014, not coming out of it until the end of, even though we started to trend up again, right? I mean, the bottom was, a couple $100 here in 2014, 2015 period. Even though we were coming out of the crypto winter still in 2015, 2016, 2017 even at the beginning of it, that is below the current trend and it's below the 2016 trend. So 2016, the reason that it's the lowest trend line still is it caught the entire crypto winter and then stopped. Then I stopped using any more pricing data to calculate the trend line. So quite interesting that let's just look at more recent years now. When you look at the all-time trend, the black line again, you compare that with the 2016 trend, even though the black line catches the 2017 data, it catches this dip in 2018, it catches, the COVID dip, and it catches all this in 2021. These trend lines are really close. They're really compressed together. And that's interesting because 2016, that was 7 years ago, year end 6 years ago, really. We're closer to saying 6 full years ago. And it drew a pretty close trend line. And let's zoom in even a little bit more here. So again, how trend lines work. The 2016 data is stamped. I'm done with it. 90% R squared until 2016. No more pricing data is going to change the prediction. It's 2016 data is where it is. The black line, however, continues to morph every day. It evolves every day once a new day-end pricing data stamps it. So very simply, right here where we intersected it, all right, at the early to mid 2022 when all the Luna madness and all of the other crypto scams were going bankrupt and falling out, Celsius, so on and so forth. When we fell below this, we started to change the direction of the black line trend. Remember, the blue line never moves. I mean, it will move as far as predicting, but it's not going to go up or down. It's just going to be a predictive trend based on 2016's data. The black line, however, takes every day. So when we were above the black line here, we were pulling the trend line up, the all-time trend line. We were just pulling it up every day. Now, from this point, after the Luna madness, we started to go down. We're pulling the trend line down. We're pulling it down. And even every day, certainly we're pulling it even down more here when we were, you remember this was a 2 sigma down move here in end of 2022, start of 2023. We were pulling the black line down and we'll continue to pull the black line down as days go on every day. I don't know the exact number, actually. It's a couple dollars. Because, again, this is a cumulative figure, this trend line. We're taking all of the prior pricing data. So it's a very strong, cumulative, day-end, 95% R-squared goodness of fit. So it's not like, Peter Zeihan says on Joe Rogan it's going to 0 or below 0 because he doesn't understand anything about Bitcoin. Apparently he doesn't understand anything about trend lines. This is a very strong, continuously evolving trend line. And yeah, it is going to pull it down with every day end that we're below the all-time black line here. But once it goes back above that black line again, which it's done many times in the past, still no reason to think that it's not going to do that in the future. Again, not financial advice. Past performance doesn't equal future results, so on and so forth. Once the actual price goes back above that trend line, it'll start pulling the trend line back up. So this is how regressions work. This is how the data works. It's hugging all of the pricing data. And sometimes the price is well above the trend line, like here and here and here. Sometimes it's well below. But it's interesting that a full 6 years ago, the blue line, which is the lowest, let's zoom in a little bit more to see it, the lowest stamped regression ever in Bitcoin's history, 2016 year end. All right, because in 2017, remember, we had the boom. So we had a higher trend line in 2017 than here. The lowest ever is, we're still above it. We're still above it. All right, let's reset the zoom here. And now let's show the last one here, the 2019 trend. Based on everything I've just said about the 2016 trend, how far off from the black line do you think the 2019 trend is going to be, even if you knew nothing else? It's obviously going to be pretty close, right? It's going to be pretty close to the black line because we're taking in so much more data, only year ending December 31st, 2019, a couple years ago. It's going to be pretty close. Let's check it out, see what it is. Basically the same. A little bit above. Let's zoom in a little bit more. A little bit above. So let's go to today's prediction based on both the all-time trend and the 2019 trend. All right, so we have a 94% R squared for 2019. Again, the data stops. I stopped collecting trend line data December 31st, 2019 for the yellow line. The black line has every single day's worth of data from 2010, Bitcoin Pizza Day, till now. We are roughly $2,000 apart, okay, to the downside. So we've fallen below the 2019 trend. And if you can remember what was happening in 2019, let's just zoom it in. Let's even take out the current trend. All right, so this is all-time trend data up until year-end 2019. This trend line took in this whole puke here at the end of 2018, takes in the little rally, and then as well below the trend line. And actually, that was already 2020, wasn't it? Let's pull it back a little bit more. We're roughly here. It takes in all of this data, this pricing data, to draw this yellow trend line. All right, let's reset the zoom. Let's quickly predict out. Again, prediction is a loose term here. Let's go out to December 31st, 2030. $718,000 Bitcoin with the cumulative year-end 2019 trend. Again, let's put the current trend back on. Very, very close. Even though you can't zoom in, you can't really quite see the differences on log scale. They are significant, surely, but you can't even quite make them out on log scale. So $675,000 predicted based on the current all-time trend, and the year-end 2019 trend, $718,000 Bitcoin. So here, about a $45,000 difference in price, and that's where the current trend line is, about $45,000 lower than the 2019 trend line. But the lesson overall should be clear here. We've started out with very limited pricing data, had a very fun trend line stamped for Bitcoin, $100 billion plus pricing expected by 2030 if Bitcoin had continued on that trend line. Didn't happen. 2013 already is much more realistic, but still pretty high number, $5 million Bitcoin by 2030. All right. Or if you remember yesterday, that's close to a 2 sigma up move based on the black line, the all-time trend. All right. And then 2016 and 2019, they become pretty stamped, as do many other years, pretty much every year since then. 2017, 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022, all very close to the black line. So let's take off 2013, 2010, put back on 2019 there. Every year, pretty much since 2016, we're very, very close to the all-time trend line, which again, is fairly interesting. It's fairly interesting that the Bitcoin system, the protocol, the supply, the demand, price matches this. It's trend line drawn over the last 6-7 years it doesn't matter which year you pick, it's pretty close to the all-time trend line, which again, never say never. Maybe we'll go way back to the 2010 trend line. Maybe we'll post new all-time lows here now that we're below these trend lines. Maybe. Again, that black line is not going to start rising up again until the current price gets above it. So we are going to continue to pull the black line down slowly, as long as the price is under the black all-time trend. However, this is an extremely tight regression, strong relationship, 95% R squared up until now. And I don't see why Bitcoin's not going to continue to hug these trend lines that the system has posted continuously. The market as well has posted continuously over the last 6-7 years. With 95% plus R squared, I don't see why that would change. Again, past performance doesn't equal future results. So that's it. That's a little bit of the evolution of the power curve, the power regression trend line over Bitcoin's price. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.